I will teach you how to play the King's Indian defense versus the London system. This was requested by a subscriber. If you have an opening request like this, just let me know in the comments. So if white plays pawn to d4, we can try to play the King's Indian defense. And we start with knight to f6 because we want to prevent them from pushing this pawn, right? And the moment that white plays bishop to f4 or even knight to f3, we already know that they are probably going to play for a London system setup, which is not a problem. We can just continue with the normal King's Indian style and fianchetto this bishop on the long diagonal, just like this. White will most of the time continue with a move like pawn to e3. That is their theory for the London system, and we can play pawn to d6. And I do like to play a very early pawn to d6 here, because we are grabbing those two squares already from the beginning, and our plan is to play c5, e5, and also counter attack in the center. Most of the time, white will play something like bishop to d3, and then we get into this position. The London system player, he might play knight d2, c3, or if they are stronger, they will probably play c4 and knight to c3, because it's not really a big benefit for white to play the c3, knight d2 in this particular opening. What we are going to do as black is we are just going to castle, they castle, and our entire strategy will revolve around those two squares because we want to at some point do a counter attack with one of our pieces. So we play knight to d7 to prepare those two pawn pushes. Alright, this is not yet possible, so we need to further prepare, which we can do by playing the rook to e8, so we can prepare the pawn push to e5. And here my opponent was smart and he played pawn to e4. If they just continue with the London system and they play passively, we do have the option to push. Let's say take, take, the bishop has to move, and if they make the wrong move with the bishop, it's always possible for them to lose material as well in some of these variations, because you can push, basically attack two pieces at the same time. Yes, they take with the knight, we take, they take, and we have the rook as a backup, and it's just a very big calculation. But at the end, the thing that you need to remember is that if you can push, and get the pawn here and attack two pieces, that's going to be a very easy game. My opponent is playing the better move, which is to fight back with the e4 himself. And now we have this e4, e5 challenge going on here. Basically, these two pawns are challenging each other. And we also attack their bishop. So this is one of the best ways really to fight back against the London. At the lower rating levels, oftentimes it's just going to end up giving you some free material if they make mistakes and allow you to do some type of fork with the pawn. And at the higher level, this just basically prevents their plans, annoys their bishop a little bit, and it gives us some good fighting chances. Black to move. What's the plan here in this position? Well, as soon as you achieve this, your next goal should be to further improve your pieces. And with improving pieces, I'm mainly talking about those pieces which are most passive and not really doing much. So a great thing that we can do here is eliminate the pawn on d4. And that is in general one of our strategies. And that is if white doesn't capture us themselves, we will capture them ourselves. So e5 or c5, both of those were possible as a counterattack. Usually e5 is the better one. But if they don't take, you just take the pawn yourself and eliminate one of their strong central pawns. And this also opens up this square potentially for pieces. And also it opens up this diagonal for the bishop. So we really do benefit from this move. And I think I will immediately use it. I will immediately use it to just put my knight there, and then we go for this position. And what we have now achieved is that basically the entire London system players' plans are destroyed. They don't really have anything. They don't have any kingside attack. Their pieces are all jumbled up, not really doing much here on this side of the board. And we fought back, and we also have just as much central control as they do. So that's just the basis of how to fight against the London system. Now, of course, we still want to see if there is a way for us to activate more pieces. This bishop is not really doing much, so we need to get it into the game. This, all of those are bad squares. This as well. So oftentimes what you can do is you can play something like pawn to b6. so that you can play this move bishop to b7 and basically activate this bishop on the long diagonal. So this also gives you some extra pressure in the center. If they still have the pawn on e3, oftentimes this can also help to at some point try to push this e4 pawn and go for that fork. Your queen in this opening usually has to be on e7. The main reason why is that you don't want it to be on the same file as the rook. So what I usually do is the moment that they move the rook to the d file is the moment I play queen e7. Just because it eliminates any tactics. Otherwise, sometimes they can sacrifice a bishop and also open up an attack on your queen with their rook if this knight is not here. So that's just a good thing to remember as well. When they play the rook over, just play queen e7. You have extra support in the center. If they had the pawn on e3, you could also use this as an extra piece to try to push. But white here played the smart move, which is pushing the pawn to e4 themselves. And this also opens up the extra square here for our rook. So we get the rook active as well. White is trying to do a counterattack against our pawn. As you can see, they have two pieces attacking it. And our first defender, the one that has to capture back first, is the queen. And that's not great in this position. Because basically if they take, we cannot recapture, we would be losing the queen. But it's always a problem that is very easy to fix. Because the moment that you move back this knight, you have an extra supporter, but also this piece opens up. So it's always very, very easy to hold on to your pawn if you just follow this strategy. And I think we might even, in some variations, be returning the favor and playing this bishop to this knight to c5 and then attacking this pawn twice with the bishop and the knight. This does remove a defender, so I have to be careful that I don't drop the pawn. But in any case, I think we are always fine because we still have the queen and the bishop defending at the same time. I do think that this move that my opponent played is a bad move. It looks like it makes sense because they are trying to counterattack this square, which is also weak. But it's also a problem because we oftentimes have this bishop to h6 and then the knight is pinned to the queen. So what we can do is I think we can first trade just to limit calculation. We don't have to think about this file anymore. And then play this bishop here. And the problem for them is that if they play something like, for example, they grab here, we can just, I think, move the king to the corner, or maybe move the king up, and the knight will be under attack, the bishop will be under attack, and basically everything is going to crumble. And even if they defend, they would always be losing a piece. They would always be losing the bishop at the end of the variation. So they are already in trouble. And now I think we have multiple ways to win this, because we do have double pressure in the center with the knight and the bishop. That was a very big part of our strategy. We also have the pin on this knight. So basically everything is just collapsing for my opponent. And even though they have this counterattack, as I said before, it never works because they would be putting their bishop in trouble as well. What I think I can do is I think I can just take here, eliminate the knight, eliminate the problem as well. And then we just have this, this free pawn here in the center because we have two pieces attacking it. And it looks to me like this is going to be quite an easy win. This should be an easy win because we already have an extra pawn. We might win one more extra pawn here in the future. All we need to do honestly now is try to trade this into an endgame. And they are putting pressure here, but I think we have this counter attack where we take their bishop. If they take our rook, we take their rook. So that seems fine. It's just an exchange. And if they don't go for it, probably we just have some very simple moves like this, pawn to c6, kicking away their bishop. Now we just have an endgame with an extra pawn, which should already be enough to win, plus they also have the damaged pawn structure. But now we still need to win the endgame, which can be difficult if you are not a great endgame player. How do we do this? Well, first of all, trading is good because trading leads to a more simple endgame where we have an extra pawn. Second of all, they have a weak structure. So if I can attack, I will attack it. So I am thinking about something with bishop here so that I could maybe challenge their bishop, go for an extra trade. maybe go here. If the queen was not there, attack the pawn. If the queen is here, we can also attack the queen. But at the same time, because they moved the queen, they are basically giving us this extra pawn as well. Yes, they could take here, but everything is just collapsing for my opponent. And I think we might even have some checkmating opportunity there as well. But they are playing it a little bit more defensive. So my strategy is just to see if we can go for trades. That's honestly the most important endgame strategy I could ever teach you. And it's just, as soon as you are up material, go for trades. Go for as many trades as you can. You can see that this is already simpler. Now we just have a queen and rook endgame with 2 extra pawns. Imagine if we could exchange the queen and the rook. It would just be king and pawn with 2 extra pawns. They are trying to do the only counterplay they have, which we can protect by playing rook to f6, attack the queen, also this pawn. We do have to watch out. Some things are collapsing on our side of the board as well, and we don't want to lose too many pawns in the process. So I am looking if there is a way to maybe sneak in with the queen, try to grab hold of some pawns. Maybe this move here, queen to b2. And this attacks basically all of the pawns. Some counterplay is going on, but I don't think it matters because we can take this, attack their rook, and if they give the check, we go up. If they took our rook, we would have their rook with a check as well. So everything is still fine, but I do have to watch out that I can simplify this a little bit more because I really want to get a trade going. A trade of the queens I think would be amazing. For example, if the king went there, that would just be a queen trade. And then we would have an endgame with a rook and 2 extra pawns. I'm going to see if they go for the queen trade. A queen trade would be amazing. But they don't go for the queen trade. We do have to watch out that we don't end up in some type of checkmate. For example, this would be a checkmate, so we do have to be careful. But I don't think it's going to happen because we can somehow always sneak out the king. And now we have a rook trade, which is perfect. All I need is a queen trade. And I don't see a queen trade. By the way, always be careful, even in these endgames. If I think that this is an extra pawn, I would be mistaken because then they give the check and they skewer me, attacking the king, forcing the king to move and winning the queen. So you have to be careful in these endgames. I know that I play this quite casually because I just see that there is no way for them. But you would probably need to slow down a little bit more and see that you don't mess this up. Because if they still have the queen, that's still a dangerous piece. I honestly, I don't see it. I don't see how we can immediately win this. My strategy was just seeing if I can make sure that I don't allow any tricks and maybe play with the h5 queen here. That was my strategy. Seeing if I can maybe go for a check here, try to counterattack a little bit, but I don't really have anything immediately. This is a free pawn, I think, which we can just take, because even if they give this check, it doesn't really matter. And if the king goes here, I don't think we have any checks. But still, we have to be careful. They are trying to give us an endless amount of checks, and also win a couple of pawns. But I don't think they really have anything. Okay, now this looks to me like we could have something here. The king is cut off, and maybe we could do something with checks or with a pawn. But I always have to watch out I don't end up with an endless amount of checks as well. I think queen c5 or queen a1 or queen b2, those might be interesting moves. Because I do need to get my queen somewhere so I can give checks and also protect my king. So I think this makes sense, queen to c3. We are losing that pawn, but it doesn't really matter. We can win this one. And now we just have an endgame where we have to watch out for the endless checks. Okay, we are safe with the checks. So this is still complex. I mean, we have to try to promote the pawn and also make sure that we don't run into any trouble. This bot is really a really annoying defender, but I think he is doing everything he can, but it won't be enough because we are slowly pushing and always getting closer. But we have to always keep an eye on those checking squares as well. And now this should be a win, right? This should be a win. They are, yeah, they are not in a position where they will be able to stop us from promoting. Okay, I think that's going to be the game. Oh, but we still have to watch out for this check. This is literally the most annoying chessbot ever, honestly. Do we have something? I think we can make a queen. I think we can always just run. Because if we have 2 queens, we should be fine. Yeah. Okay. now, of course, this should be an easy checkmate. So that is how you can play the King's Indian defense versus the London system. Still, they are trying to go for that stalemate. You know, if I go here, that's a stalemate. We have to be very careful. But this will be a checkmate.